Can you still grow a company today without social media is the question. Curious your thoughts.
That's a great question. It's not. I was trying to think as you were, setting me up here. Where's this going to go? What
Yeah.
question am I about to get? And I've never
Yeah.
been asked. I've never been asked that question, so I don't have a canned
Yeah.
answer for it. But as I kind of think
That's
on
good.
the fly here, can you? Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I'm not the type that's going to sit here and talk about whatever is dead or you can't do this if you don't have this thing. But I do
Mhm.
think that we're at a point now where it would be very, very challenging. It's I think like when I think about what really matters in marketing or fundamental marketing
Mhm.
strategy, it kind of comes down to this: who are you targeting? And what like who is your audience? Who are the individual human beings or job roles that you need to reach? What
That's right.
matters to those people? Like, what are they trying to achieve? What problems are they trying to solve? What outcome they're trying to get to? How can you align your expertise with that and package up
Mhm.
resources and insights and content or whatever you want to call it? But then it comes down to, how do we make sure those insights and that messaging is consumed? And I think
Mhm.
without social media, I think you're taking away, probably for most of you, the best and most efficient distribution channel or place to go target and reach those right people at scale, to engage with them, start conversations, to try to get input on what message is resonating and what's not. So I think I have some
Mhm.
thoughts on where would I go if social media disappeared today. How would I start doing it?
Yeah.
But I do think it's possible. But I think you're especially I guess if the question is, if it went away, what would you do? Well, then we're all in the same boat. If you just said, nah, it's
Sure.
not
Sure.
important, we're
Yeah.
not going to do it, well, then I think you're putting yourself at a massive disadvantage.
Yeah, and I think another way to come at it would be what is the real impact of social media for a B2B company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And is that impact great enough to spend all the time, resources, manpower behind it
Mm-hmm.
that could be spent somewhere else? That is even more fundamental, because I think you laid it out perfectly. How we should think about, fundamentally how we should go about marketing a company. But in the process of doing that, again, speaking straight to the B2B, I think B2C is a completely different question. But B2B, we can buy a list. We know who is sitting in which seat. If we already have, let's say, we're already pretty far down. Let's say your company's been around for a little while. You've done the homework. You're kind of already down the road a little bit to know kind of what those pain points are, what the desires are, what their days look like. You've built your personas out and everything, and you've had some success using the fundamentals. Then why would we need to use social media? I guess, where's that impact really coming from? I'll give you another chance to kind of go at it, and I'll kind of give some of my thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think about maybe more traditional channels of, dispersing your message or reaching people. You think about live events. Trade shows are huge in manufacturing. Everybody goes
Mm-hmm.
to trade shows. um there's email, right? Like 10 years ago, I'd probably have been, and I mean, not probably, I was advising and helping clients build lists, whether it was buying lists, whether it was some Zoom info type of stuff, or if it was just the organic lists you've built through with your company, and sending information that way. I think some of the problems today is that the buying process has changed so much. You don't know who is
Mm-hmm.
actually in market for a product or service these days. You think
Yeah.
about sending email. You are, even if you're amazing at email, we actually do really well with our email for Gorilla. It only hits 5,000-6,000 people, but every other week, and it performs well. But it's every other week, and that's about the most you can do. Only some small percentage is actually paying attention and engaging, and you're competing with all the other companies that are just spamming constantly with email. So I think email
Right.
has its limitations. I think if done right, it can be really good. I mean, live events, I have seen manufacturers put their entire marketing budget into 3 days at IMTS or FabTech or Pack Expo or some of these huge shows, and they
Yeah.
spend 200K and ship all this equipment across the country, and that's it. Like,
Yep.
and you look at social, and you have a 24/7 platform to
Mhm.
target who you want to build actual human connections with people. And it's a lot of work organically, but there's a paid side of it too. And I think we should at some point differentiate between,
Sure.
organic and paid, because you can pay for access to your audience. And
Mhm.
if you are delivering meaningful messaging and content, you can win that way very quickly, right?
Sure. All well said. And I personally think that it just comes down to how you use the tools. If you can win on trade shows alone, then that kind of proves my point. You don't need social media because you've utilized that tool to its fullest, fully optimized, fully integrated, whatever it may be. And again, it depends on the trajectory of how you want to grow your company. If you want this massive company, then ultimately you're going to need all the tools. But smaller companies, depending on what their end game is, may not. They just may have to do some things really well.